Welcome to this episode of Love That For You, the podcast where we dive into the stories that shape us and celebrate the moments that make us who we are. I'm your host, Morgan Leatherwood, a Charlotte-based professional photographer with a passion for genuine connections. Get ready for a conversation that's both lighthearted and deeply insightful. As we journey through each episode, you'll witness the power of storytelling in its purest form. Whether we're discussing pivotal life moments, overcoming challenges, or celebrating achievements, every story will leave you saying, "Love that for you." It's a phrase that encapsulates our genuine enthusiasm for the triumphs of others and the joy that radiates from their successes. You could be anywhere, listening to anything, but you're here, and I love that for you. Hey friends, before we jump into our conversation, I just wanted to remind you, if you don't know already, I actually host another podcast called Queen City Connect. This is a podcast that celebrates the dreamers, the doers, and the change makers of Charlotte, North Carolina. If that sounds like something that would interest you, I would love for you to go check it out on any podcast platform, even the one you're listening to right now. We would absolutely love that. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, rate and review, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. We also have an Instagram page that you can follow along to see who all of the incredible small business owners and nonprofits and creatives that make up Charlotte, North Carolina are at. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, we would love for you to listen in. Thanks, everyone. Okay, well, we're going, Allie. I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. Thank you so much. It's so fun to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, that is very true. But fast besties, also you brought an additional plus one with you as well.
I sure did. I'm about a week out from, we hope, delivering my third little girl.
That's exciting. Do you have a name picked out?
We do.
Oh,
and it's actually, even though it's our third girl, I want to say it's extra exciting in a new way this time because the first two, gender was a surprise. And this one, I think it's our last, wanted to just have a different experience. I'm a little bit more type A. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So we found out it's a little girl and we're sharing her name this time. We didn't share any names last time.
Okay.
So that's pretty fun. The last flight I was on was in 2019, right before COVID. I've basically been pregnant or had a baby ever since. And we went to Israel. And
I've been to Israel too. We need to talk about it, but you keep going.
Yeah. And one of our favorite places, my husband and I, was the Sea of Galilee. So many of Jesus's miracles and ministry were there, and we just fell in love with it. And so we thought, well, what if we name her Galilee? So her official name is Galilee Catherine.
Oh my gosh.
And we're going to, we're in the South, and I love a double name. So we're going to call her Lily Kate.
Okay. Well, I'm now crying on the podcast. That is so cute.
Thank you so much. We
I
can't
love
wait to
that.
meet her. So close.
Oh my goodness. Do your other kids have names with like meanings like that, or?
There's a little bit different, of course, some connection to each of them.
Sure.
Our first is Grace Lorraine. Okay. My Aunt Lorraine just radiates the Holy Spirit. You just feel like Jesus is right there with you with every interaction. She's one of those people, if you remember, like back in the day, elementary school, who's your favorite person, all that good. You're just like, I love my Aunt Lorraine. Yeah. And so Grace Lorraine. And then our number two, we've got Caroline. And she and I share a middle name, Helene. Caroline, Helene. So Caroline, Grace, and Lily Kate.
I love that. And was Grace named before your company, Grace Based Coaching?
That is so funny. It has nothing to do with the business. There will always be that connection.
Okay.
Going back, the original name was Caroline Grace. That was my go-to name. And then my husband's like, well, what? Fun fact, he picked all three names, basically. He's like, what if we split that up? And praise God we did, because we have three little girls. I got to use all of the names and have a bonus one too now. Yeah.
That's incredible. Those are beautiful names.
Thank you.
My sister has 4 girls, so
that
we're
is
a
wild.
big girl family. I have 1 nephew and then 5 nieces. So my sister has 4, and then my brother has a boy and a girl. Yeah, there's that picture up there too. I stare at them every day. They're so beautiful. So, okay, well, that's incredible. How did you and your husband meet?
We met back in 2006.
Okay.
I'm originally from Florida, down in Naples, a great place to go visit, but I just hate being hot. Even as a child, I was like, this is not for me. And so I went to undergrad and grad school up in the Northeast where all of my family is at Villanova. And so he and I were in the same dorm and just met through living in the same dorm. And I met him 2 weeks before I transferred to the University of Miami because I thought I hated the cold and didn't want to be up there anymore. So we met. I headed down to Miami. We were friends and kept in touch for about a semester, which honestly, I feel like is the best way to really build a foundation.
Yeah.
And ended up coming back to Villanova in the fall. And then we made it official in 2007, married in 2015, and then obviously together ever since.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Made it official in 2007 and married in 2015. So you did date for...
There was a minute there.
That's a long minute.
There it sure was.
Were you like over it by year 2 of dating, or was it natural progression? I guess for me thinking right now, it's like I'm single currently. So it's like when I was literally talking to some girlfriends the other day, it's like when I meet someone, 4 months, we're engaged. 4 months later, we're married.
I hear you. And that is fair. But just going like, we were 18.
Yeah.
We were babies.
That makes sense. That's good context.
Well, I remember as we were planning for a wedding and picking a wedding song, he's like, well, what do you think about The Broken Road? I'm like, Kevin, I love you. And that is so sweet. But also we met at 18. We didn't have very much of a broken road.
Yeah. Our road was a straight path.
Yeah. But that kind of connects to our whole Charlotte story. I'm 35. We graduated in 2010. All of his friends stayed in the area and all of mine left. And it got old hanging with the guys all of the time. And just... I thought I wanted a different environment and community and atmosphere, and faith was becoming more and more important. And it was kind of hard to find a good faith community in the Northeast, personally, I thought. Yeah. So we were considering Charlotte, Atlanta, and DC, and we both loved Charlotte the most. This was in 2013. I mean, it's a completely different city now at this point. But I kind of said, you know what, I need to go. I hope you come. If you don't, I understand. And that was sort of a pivotal point. And he said yes, and we did the thing, and we both... love it. He's from upstate New York. Okay. Legitimately, we are about 5 to 10 minutes difference in my hometown and his. Like we are smack in the middle in Charlotte, which is kind of hilarious.
Well, that's great. So when you moved here, you didn't know anybody?
Okay. Another fun fact. There was one person I knew. Okay. His name is Dave. My girlfriends and I were sat on a cruise. We were just talking about cruises on a cruise ship table with him and his friends, and just like a really nice guy. And so I said, Dave, we're thinking about moving to Charlotte. Like, will you be my friend if we go? And he's like, yeah, of course I will. So literally just knew my friend Dave that I met on my senior year spring break cruise.
Appreciate it.
I mean, shout out to Dave. And then full circle. Fun fact moment, you know, if Charlotte, so many people aren't from here and I feel like are so open and friendly and willing to meet other people. So I'm just chatting with my dental hygienist. She's like, do you want to hang out? Yep. Fast forward a year or two, I set Stephanie and Dave up and they're now married.
No way. Your dental hygienist, Stephanie?
Yep. With friend
Dave.
From Dave. Yeah.
So love to see it.
Yes.
Way to go.
God does some wild things.
That's amazing. That is incredible. This is why networking is important. This is why going to the dentist is important.
Check. Yes.
I'm preaching to myself. I got to go back. Wow. Okay. I've also match made several couples in my day. I'm not kidding. I think it's 6.
That's insane.
It's either 5 or 6. We don't have time.
But another side business for you. Not that you need to do one more, but legitimately, wow.
They are literally wonderful. I'm still great friends with all of them. I'm related to some of them. So I'm like, all right, y'all, who wants to return the favor? Come on.
It's time.
Yeah. But okay, that is incredible. So then what does work look like for you both when you move here? Because you don't have kids yet or anything.
No kids at all at that point. Yeah, so that was 2013 and our first baby came in 2020. So we were here for quite a bit. Okay. Yeah, so at that point, kind of going back a little bit in my story, and it'll hopefully draw into what we're about to talk about in a minute, but I was initially going to school to become a physician assistant. Okay. So from Florida, loved all the skincare, things like that. I just thought, honestly, probably more of an esthetician type of a role in derm, right? And so anyhow, that's where I had begun. And 2 weeks into grad school, just realized like, what am I doing? This is not my dream. What even is my dream? What am I even good at? What do I like doing? No idea. I'm one of probably the most type A organized people, Enneagram 3, that you will meet. And so I pulled out of school without knowing what I was going to do, which was huge and insane. And then from that, went back. I was a psych undergrad, pre-med, went back and got my master's in HR development. Okay. Yep. So I thought the best of the best was consulting. I wanted to jet around and travel and be on amazing big clients. And so I transferred with a large consulting firm down from the Philly market to Charlotte. Got it. And my husband was in Big Four accounting at the time. Okay. So started that. It was just under a year and just realized that it's not as glamorous as you think it would be for me personally. And so at that point, I joined a local organization, Family Dollar, in their corporate headquarters. Nice. And worked there in HR. And so was with Family Dollar. They were acquired. So I thought, what other company is maybe a little bit more, steady and even keel. And I thought the utilities industry, nothing probably really happens there. And steady. Shortly thereafter, that company, Piedmont Natural Gas, was acquired by Duke Energy. So was at Piedmont and Duke Energy, and at Piedmont is when I began to go through and get curious about coaching. Okay. So that was a little bit of the background and
okay.
path. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now you're like, hey, what does this coaching look like?
Yeah.
So I know there's like so many different types of coaching that's out there. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to hear like, what was your mindset when you were like, yeah, coaching is interesting. Like, did you jump on YouTube and like, or Google and be like, coaching, how does this happen? Like, what was that process of being interested in it to being where you are today?
Absolutely. And I want to say, just going back to faith, like God uses all things for good and for purpose. So like when I was going through that experience of going from healthcare to the business world, just having so much practice of what it looks like to really research and go about this in a meaningful way. So anyhow, use some of those kind of different thoughts and ideas and the ways that I did that. But what I didn't even know it was coaching at first. I just knew I loved goal setting. I loved development. Like that has always lit me up my entire life.
And you're a believer at this time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Personality assessments, all of that are just so much fun. But I'm like, how might I do that in a way that has even more meaning and intention? If you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs at all, I'm an INFJ.
Okay.
So having a lot of purpose and intentionality are just crucial to my everyday.
I think I'm an ENFP.
Okay.
Or ENFJ. Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm ENF, not sure what the last letter is.
J. I think the J is maybe more detail oriented,
well, I'm not that
organized.
One. No.
Okay. We might be a P. We'll have to check later. Yes. And so I didn't even know it was coaching. I just knew I wanted to do something with development and for it to have meaning. And I loved my corporate work. I thought it was fun. It was great pay, great hours. Like really, it was a home run in so many different ways. Okay. But when you feel prompted towards more, but it was like, what is that more? Like I didn't know if it was a volunteer role at church. I just had no idea what was out there. And so to your point, I just Googled like faith, growth, and development. And I'll always say one of the people that came up, well, two people I would say are pivotal. The one is Lisa Allen. At the time, she was at Proverbs 31 Ministries, and she was a Christian coach as part of what she did. Bless her, I reached out and she responded, and it was so great. So I talked with her a lot. She connected me with a lot of different people. And then she's no longer with the company, but if you're familiar at all with Cultivate What Matters,
sounds familiar.
Okay, yeah. So they do like goal setting planners type of a thing.
Yes.
And Laura Casey was in charge of that. So she does it, and she does kind of connect faith to that too. And so I just started to get curious, see what was out there. And it was hard because I've been thinking, I've already left the healthcare industry. I got my master's in an area that I never thought I would. Like, should I do secular coaching here and stay in the business world? Or do I say yes to faith-based coaching? And maybe again, not too long later, take another, like, what am I even doing? And that was very, very scary for someone who's a planner. So
it's a lot of risk.
It was. Yeah. And so real quick, God moment, we had just gotten married. We were getting ready to buy our first house, and dollar sign. And I'm about to have another one with another education program. And so I was trying to share with my husband what I wanted to do and why. And he was so supportive and wonderful. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for his encouragement and belief. And we agreed, okay, let's do this faith-based program. And I remember saying yes, submitting the deposit. And then that same day, my manager called me into her office, which I had no reason to be nervous about it, but she calls me, my heart is pounding.
Never a good thing. And they were like, let's talk at 5. And I'm like, let's talk now.
Yeah, please. No context. Heart is beating. She's like, take a seat. She pushes this paper across. And she said, okay, we just had our mid-year reviews. I did my very best to get you the very best bonus I could with your performance. And this is what it is. And let me tell you, it was the exact amount of the Christian coaching program. Like,
won't he do it? Won't he
God
do it?
Wink right there.
That's incredible.
And so that's sort of how everything launched.
Yeah. And I'm sure that just affirmed everything for you guys too, of like, oh yeah, we're doing this.
I'll still always remember we went to Alice Beach for my 30th birthday and talking about, because I never intended to do it full time either. So many people just said, just do this on the side. That's going to be your best bet.
Okay.
And honestly, it is, I would say, a part-time capacity because I have 3 kids under 3 in about a week.
You are momming hard.
I sure am. Yeah. Yes. But never ever thought that I would leave corporate really, just because it was great growth path, great trajectory, great salary. And he's like, if you're going to do it, let's do it. And back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, I'll start my business while I'm on maternity leave.
Right.
Now being a mom, I'm like, that was a funny joke. But yeah, so we decided that on my 30th birthday. And then a month or two later, I took the leap. I mean, truly, God is just insane with what he can do when you trust him, to our point earlier, taking risks, things like that. And just another little thing, I'll never forget the day that I was about to give my notice. I woke up, thought that I would just, feel so light and just so much joy and excitement. And I was, but I had more, anxiety than I thought I would. And I'm like, am I doing the wrong thing, God? Like, what is happening here? I pull out my devotional and the title for the day was Do It Afraid. And again, that's just whoever's listening right now and who might have a thing or not even know what that thing is, just like, do it afraid.
Yeah.
God is with you and he's going to lead you and give you what you need each step of the way.
Yeah. I read that you put that down when I asked you some questions of just like, what would you want to say? And you're like, do it afraid. And I was like, that is a message even for me. I mean, I think of with my business, with this podcast, with Queen City Connect podcast, I mean, I get overwhelmed very quickly because I have help, but at the end of the day, like it's me in this room, like I am the person doing these things.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, I feel like, for the enemy just to be like, what are you doing? This doesn't matter. You're working, you're working so hard and it's not doing anything. No one's listening. Like all these lies, I have to keep coming back from like, if I believe that the Lord has called me to do this, then I'm just going to do it. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know what I have goals of what I want in 5 years. I have goals of what I want in 10 years, but like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But I'm going to do it afraid. And I feel like it's still new with like podcasting, but my business I've had for several years. And I look back on when I first started and I didn't have any clients, but I had a camera and I knew I wanted to take pictures. And now I see where I am now with it. And it's like, I'm so glad I did it afraid because look where I am now. And not even the photos I've taken, but the relationships I've been able to build that now I'm like great friends with a lot of my clients and it's just networking and it's just so relational. So I feel like I am in, and maybe everyone listening is in a season of not wanting to do something, but knowing you need to do it afraid. But then I'd also like encourage everyone to look what is in your life right now that you've already done afraid. And you see where you are now, and it's like, it's almost like that's the stones of remembrance, it's like, look how far you've come and that's going to keep propelling you to take that next step.
Amazing. You, I think kind of spoke to these things too, but if I can add just two other thoughts.
Please. You are the professional.
Is just sometimes taking the pressure, like it's about us, but it's not about us at all. Right. And taking the pressure off, thinking like, this is his business. It's his podcast. He's going to do with it what he will. And sometimes that almost like, it's like a balloon, putting a little needle in it, deflate, like exhale a little bit. So that, I feel like that can be so powerful. And then even more importantly, like focusing on who we're serving. Right? Like focusing on loving that person, that woman, that clientele really, really well, making the experience as best as possible for them, like having your heart break for whatever that person's heart breaks for, just like Jesus would. And sometimes when we just, that small redirect can make all of the difference and help you focus on what really matters and why you're even there.
That's so good. Like get your mind off of self because like you said, it's not about you. It's like, what is the greater goal, the greater purpose. So wow. Okay. Let's transition and talk about coaching and what you get to do. So I guess my question is like, who needs coaching? Is your coaching for everybody, or are you like with a specific type of client that you like to work with? But like, who needs coaching? What is coaching for someone who's like, I've never talked to anyone about my life before? That's a thing. Like, how can we educate people about what you do and who needs what?
Amazing. And thank you for asking that. Probably 90%, 95% of the people that I work with have never experienced coaching before either. So it's so new to so many people. The simplest way to break it down is a lot of people are familiar with counseling, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a great thing. So we kind of think of counseling as looking towards the past. You need to heal from something to get to a healthy current place. Maybe you have trauma or anxiety, depression, something like that. Coaching, obviously you still want to make a change. You're reaching out and you want support, but it's more about future focus, looking forward. So I've heard it said that coaching is getting you from where you are to where you want to be.
That's good.
And then Christian coaching specifically is getting you from where you are to where God wants you to be.
Ooh, that's really good.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's incredible. That is such a great distinction too of counseling is, hey, let's work on everything that's gotten you to this point and then coach. So it's almost like we need both. You know, I feel like the
Ideally, that
healthiest
would be-
person is going to be very in tune with their life up to this point. And then, okay, now that we have everything, not everything handled, I mean, we're all
Sure.
works in progress.
Always.
But how can we then move forward, specifically how God wants us to move forward? Because you are a Christian coach. Okay, wow. Share with us, like, what does it look like to have Christian coaching? Like, if I came to you and was like, Allie, I think I'm interested in Christian coaching. Like, are we going to sit down? Are you going to ask me like what I'm doing with my life and where I want to be? Like, what does that practically look like? Like, how can we maybe make this not look and feel scary for someone who's interested, but like, I don't know about this.
1000%. Because there, to your point, there are so many question marks, right? This is new and different. And would it be helpful to talk a little bit about the type of person who tends to, at least for grace-based Christian coaching, thrive in that space?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would say it's kind of connecting back to, you know, this story that I was sharing. A lot of clients, and maybe this resonates with some other service providers, you tend to serve who you are, right? So people who are ambitious and go-getters, they're doing all of the things, but you might get to the end of the day and feel like, what even just happened, right? So I've heard it said too, like if you want someone to get something done, look for the busiest person you know, type of a thing. So that's a lot of these women, they are either small business owners, maybe influential in their community, things like that. So, you know, life looks really good, but it doesn't feel the way it looks. So there might be a lot of negative beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, things like that, that they just want to overcome. But those pathways are just so constant and regular that they're having trouble getting out of that cycle. So a lot of times those are the type of people who come, they want coaching. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the process. But yeah, so that's, you're feeling stuck, maybe negative thoughts and beliefs. And then once we start to work together, you experience like, what does it look like to focus on what really matters? What does it look like to create intentionality in your everyday? How can you actually live in the freedom to who God made you to be? So what I'll say too, a little bit of a difference counseling and coaching is you leave with an action item, a to-do, a different way of thinking every time. So we start with an intake assessment, look kind of at the course of your life, what all is going on, and plan out a strategy of what's to come. We'll dig super deep where you are, where you want to be, and then create a plan. So it's all about action. What is your plan to get to those next steps? So you'll experience that in every session. And we kind of proactively want to think through the obstacles, what might get in your way along the path. And just to have a partner and I feel like accountability is big too. So many clients are just even knowing we're going to meet again soon really changes things for them. So that's a little bit of background.
That sounds so helpful. It literally sounded like you were talking about me. So guess I know where I need to go sign up. I think that's so helpful because it is a lot of times, again, I'm just looking at, you know, what God has called me to do and what I'm doing right now. And I'm not trying to like puff myself up, but I'll hear from people like, wow, Morgan's doing this, this, and this, and she's doing all these things. And like, people don't realize like the internal like fear that I feel. And like, oftentimes I feel like loneliness has maybe been more in my past than it is currently, praise the Lord, because that's the worst feeling. But just a like, I don't know, not an unsettlement, but just I don't feel on the inside as confident as people think I look on the outside. And I think having someone to sit down and kind of navigate all of that with would be really helpful, because then I feel like that's going to help you be proactive to, okay, here's everything happening now. Where can we confidently move forward?
1000%. I hear so many of the women talk about, you know, imposter syndrome, the way that they see themselves is so different from the way that they're perceived. And the way we talk to ourselves, it really matters. Just thinking about how the Bible says, take every thought captive. Maybe you saw Jenny Allen just posted a reel about we actually have the choice to choose how we're thinking, and we can be like a remote for ourselves. But one thing that maybe stands out is not just, because I'll never forget one of my most successful years. It was back in 2017, I think it was doing so much, running the business, killing it corporate at the same time. And on paper, I was like, wow, like this looks great. But I had never felt just so exhausted, just spiritually, emotionally, physically. And just remembering too, not only what we're doing matters, but the how we're doing it matters, right? In what spirit and what type of energy, and thinking about those things. So to your point, yeah, like maybe you are totally killing it, but like how much better could it be if it was done in an even healthier way, right? In all of the different capacities. What might life look like then? And just really thinking bigger than you would on your own. It's really, I feel like coaching is about getting further faster. And so much of that is mindset and reframing and all of that. And that's an enormous part of the work I'll do with clients.
I know this episode is going to be so helpful for people listening. Oh my goodness. It's helpful for me. Even for people who are listening and they're like, okay, sign me up. This sounds amazing. Is there some way, how can they contact you? Is there any sort of is there a phone call that happens? What is that beginning process? Maybe someone's like, I'm really interested in this. I'm really resonating with what they're saying, but I also don't know if I want to go 100% in and commit. What can they do to get more information? Maybe reach out.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of different things I'd share. One, this past year I've taken a hiatus, but we have a podcast, 50 episodes in. It's called Grace-Based Christian Coaching, Fruitful Faith, Women on Mission. So a lot of that, it's almost like a mini coaching session in a podcast
That's
format.
Incredible.
So there's a lot of, I would say, evergreen content. It's no matter if you listen to it tomorrow or in 5 years, it's still going to be really valuable. So that's going to help you experience it more so. The website is gracebasedchristiancoaching.com. You'll have probably a pop-up or the top left corner, I think it is. You can do a complimentary kind of mini session. So it's maybe 15 minutes recorded of me walking through something so that you can experience coaching in a way that way. And it'll enable you to join our email family, which has, I don't email a ton at all. It's maybe once or twice a month that you'll get something. So don't worry about that. And it always is going to be value add, meaty content. So that's something else if you want to get some additional information and resources. And if you're feeling even closer, can I just talk with her and have her answer my direct questions? That is my heart for this business. Again, corporate was great in so many ways, but I get it. With large companies and organizations, you have to scale at a certain point. But my heart for grace-based Christian coaching is to have this experience be as custom and tailored to you and your style and your needs as possible. So one way in doing that is having a clarity call. So you'll find an application again on the website to complete if you would like to do that. And if through that application we find we might be a fit, I give you a complimentary 45 minutes where we dig into where you're at, where you want to go, just help get you already thinking differently, asking some powerful coaching questions there and figuring out for both sides, are we a mutual fit and do we want to go forward with this? Because it is, financially an investment, but also of your time, right? The most popular way I'll work with clients is a 6-month commitment, and we'll meet every other week. And, sometimes it might sound like a lot, but it goes fast too. And I love that one because I say it's big lifestyle change. Half a year is enough where you're going to go through a lot of different seasons and you'll have someone to walk through that with you.
Right.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. So those are a few different ways if you want to learn more and you're feeling prompted. And I don't know when this will go live, but there's always something I feel about the end of the year and the beginning of the new year that's just really a fun time to start. So just something to think about, just that nudge, right? That some people just say the safest investment that I can make is investing in myself. Sometimes you need to hear that, right? It's going to be something that you will always take with you and always begin to think about and question things differently and just love so much. It's, again, going back to what we said earlier, it's about you, but it's bigger than you. So oftentimes people will say, my marriage is beginning to be different, the way I interact with my kids, my coworkers, and just, God is so good at how it benefits so many different areas of your life when you get to do this and to just have it become your new norm. Yeah.
I'm reminded of the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup.
It's true.
So it's we need to be doing the work to make ourselves the healthiest we can be, not in a selfish, narcissistic way, but that is genuinely and truly how we will serve others best.
I've been talking with clients about that so much lately. And I, even hesitate to use the word self-care, but self-compassion, just reminding ourselves that we are his creation and let's respect that and honor that and notice we're supposed to fall short in some areas on purpose so we can connect more closely to him. We talk about a lot of that stuff too. Yeah.
I feel that deeply. Well, Allie, I have a final question for you, but before we get to that, is there anything else about coaching or anything season of life for you right now that you want to speak into? Actually, I do have one other question for you. So you can answer that one. Great. And then my other question for you is, I would just love to know what you know and love about God because of this work that you've done that maybe you didn't know before you stepped into this space.
Wow, that's such a great question. I would say how faithful he is and what a great provider he is. There are things that I never thought I would do. For instance, not one of my clients is actually in Charlotte right now. They're all across the country, all across the world. I've had South Africa, Ireland, currently a client in Australia.
Amazing.
I mean, my favorite place in the world is Kauai. We went there on my honeymoon. Where was my first client from? Out of all places, Kauai. I mean, like, come on. Like, he will do it. If you had gotten me 10, 15 years ago, speaking in front of the room, I mean, terrified. And now it's something that I can welcome and enjoy. And, if I might even say through his strength, am good at. So just things that you never think might come to fruition when you trust in him, surrender it to him. I mean, that is the best adventure you can take. And for anyone who's listening, I just hope this gives you that next nudge, that next step to do it and do it with him. He's just so, so good and kind and just gives us an abundance when we say yes to trusting in him.
Well, on that note, switching gears slightly, I have one final question I'd love to ask you. This whole conversation has been so fun. I feel like we could just talk for hours. Because the show is called Love That For You, what is something that you're loving right now?
I love it. One of the things that I enjoy doing is reading. And sometimes, like I said, there's a little baby coming out in about a week and 2 little ones at home. So sometimes it's literally 1 to 2 pages, but just try and do it as often as I can. And just love, I can't help myself. Always development, things like that. So if I'm going to do it, I'd like there to be a purpose behind it.
Yeah, that sounds very Enneagram 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not reading like fiction?
This is going to be my treat over maternity leave, is to maybe do a few fiction audiobooks in addition to a few shows that I'll never normally get.
So when you're reading, are you a paper book reader or a Kindle reader?
So going back to productivity and purpose.
You're an audiobook?
Well, no, that makes sense. I understand why you would say that, but I like to mark things up, reuse it again for clients, take notes.
Yes.
So one of the books recently that I had read through MOPS group that our leader had recommended, it's called Habits of the Household.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. And just the way he's right. And I'm saying he, and I will say most times I'm like, oh, this is my man. I don't know if this is going to.
Please tell us how to be a mother.
Hit the way I want it to. But he is so humble in his writing and down to earth and practical. And I just love how it gives some really good intentional tips about different ways you can kind of craft your life and family dynamics and routines. I mean, I've heard the quote recently that our everyday is our kids' childhood. And just as my girls become older, and older, and I just really, and I love the one too, our days become our years become our lives, right? And so to be able to just have thought behind what we're doing and have it all be anchored in Christ just matters more. And I've always lived with a little bit of a sense of urgency. Yeah. So this book, I feel like, speaks to that really well. So if you kind of feel like you're just floating and getting by and want to be more thoughtful about things, I couldn't recommend that one enough.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I do feel like for any sort of nonfiction, development, Christian, whatever, I also have to read the physical book because I want to mark and highlight. Mm-hmm. But for fiction, I do well with the Kindle. Maybe it's my 7 in me or something, but it keeps my attention.
Sure.
So also when I read fiction, it's like thriller because I feel like that keeps my attention more than just like a normal story that I'm like, no, I need to wait for somebody's head to get chopped off. Like I need to be looking forward to something.
That's hilarious.
Okay. So reading and Habits of the Household, we're going to link that because I've not personally read it, but I know of people who have, and I respected those people. And now hearing it from you too. So
it's a good one.
I'm sure it's a good one. Allie, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I'm so excited that we just got to chat and you're wonderful. And I know this is going to be so encouraging for everyone who hears whatever that next step they need to take. I just know that this is going to be a light to them to point them in that next direction. So
thank you so much. It was so much fun being here with you. And I just hope this blesses listeners in a way that they didn't expect.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Love That For You. As always, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who shares their incredible story with us. If this story resonated with you, don't hesitate to reach out and let them know. Remember, we're all about celebrating the victories big and small. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Keep spreading those positive vibes and saying, love that for you. Until next time, friends, I'm Morgan Leatherwood, reminding you to embrace your own story and find joy in the journeys of others.